everybody. This is Heather Lockett with Lasting Conversations, and I'm here with the amazing Janna Lemur. Hi, Janna.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me, Heather.
Thank you. Well, Janna is a beautiful, intuitive, she is a creative person. She's a coach, a writer, a speaker, and does amazing things helping her clients and people around the world and find their own self and their self-empowerment and coming to places of peace. So, Janna, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we are we haven't met in person. We just met online and we got connected by some amazing people. So I think this conversation is really about to really take off mutually for us. And what is happening for all of us in the collective is there's a lot of chaos and stress. And so where we can find the insight where to reach out for some help and where to have fun and where our personal storylines have taken us with our own twisty turnies, and to know that there are so many avenues and so many people that have our back, and we are all in this together. So, Janna, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we will get into your last name and your love of lemurs and your nonprofit.
Yes. Well, thank you, Heather. A little bit about myself. I grew up in New England till I was 18 years old. And at the time when I was young, I just knew I wanted to help people. Actually, when I was 5, one of the biggest moments I remember is I had this deep yearning desire to uplift humanity. And no one had told me. It wasn't a narrative that I had been taught. And the older I got, my mom started taking me to Christian bookstores. And I had asked if I could borrow money and purchase those little cards. I don't know if you ever have seen the little like business cards that will say, "You are beautiful, you are loved, you are special." And I remember carrying a stack everywhere I went. And whenever I felt called, if I saw someone I knew sad or they lost someone or, something was going on, I would give it to them, or I would leave it on cars sometimes. And I didn't think I was doing anything at all. It just was a part of who I was. It was a need that I had. And, fast forward going through middle school and high school, I loved singing. I was in choir most of my life. I loved to dance and I wanted to act. So I had all these desires to pretty much inspire other people through the use of creativity. My life took a very different turn, actually. I ended up joining the Navy at 18.
Wow.
I didn't have any options for college. I couldn't afford anything. I didn't have any money growing up in a smaller town in New Hampshire. So I really joined the military because I wanted a bigger life. And I wanted to go to California and expand my horizons. So that took me on a whole nother journey and eventually led me into nursing at 25 and led me down a lot of different paths, essentially, to get where I am today, which is helping women really tap into who they are and have a deeper understanding of self.
Well, I love it. These are those twisty turnies, and how you go from, especially around that age, when you're coming out of high school, college, and everything, it's a rocket launch of life, right? It's an ending. Sometimes people have no idea where they're going, and it can feel very discombobulating. And so, turn left, turn right, down a different road. You join the military service, and was it through there that you got your nurses training, or that came after that whole Navy chapter closed completely?
It came after it closed. When I joined the Navy, I didn't know anyone in the military. I had no guidance or anything. I just knew.
You really just hopped aboard, said, I'll take this boat.
Literally, I went into a recruiter's office and went into every single department and just found one that was going to give me a short enough stint where I could make enough money for college. And I told him I want to go to California. That's all I knew. And no, there was no guarantee, of course. But I ended up getting California and getting a shore duty, which was pretty unheard of with my designation. And that opened up a lot of different doors for me. I met the first man that I was ever with and the first love that I had in my life. And eventually that relationship is what pushed me into becoming a nurse when I was 25. So it wasn't ever something I wanted to do. I didn't like the medical field. I had no interest in helping people in that way. As much as I wanted to help humanity and serve, I never thought it would be in medicine. I really didn't. So that put me down a whole new path of exploration, really.
How long were you a nurse?
I've been a nurse for 12 years. So I traveled the country for about 8 or 9 years, doing different trauma centers and, different big cases in surgery. And then I stopped traveling a little bit ago to be here with my husband. I have some more roots.
Your current husband.
Yes.
So within that, tell us how you came into more of your spiritual side, your guidance. I see you've got some beautiful oracle cards and books in back of you and paintings. And you are an oracle deck writer. Tell us what that is for people who may not know what oracle decks are.
Sure. So oracle decks are a divination tool. So it's just a tool that people can use to go deeper into the self, deeper into the higher wisdom and knowing. So for instance, this is just one example of an oracle deck. They come in different sizes. So typically a person that will write the deck will not be the same person that does the artwork. Usually it's different people. So,
and this one is called Whispers of the Ocean.
Yep, this is Whispers of the Ocean, Angela Hartfield. So most decks will come with a little booklet. And in that booklet, it'll just give you an explanation of what is an oracle deck, how can you use it. You can use it to ask a question or to get more guidance. And then it will give you each chapter will correlate with each card. So, usually you'll have just cards and then each one will be different.
Right. And it's pretty amazing how, I must say, even people who may kind of poo-poo that sort of a thing, the wisdom comes forward. So the whole just pick a card and then that is the message that you might want to hear for sure. It's amazing.
Yes, it really is. Yeah. For anyone that would poo-poo a card, or maybe they're not open to it, or perhaps they grew up in a religion that looked at oracle cards as, sinful or of the devil or anything like that. I've heard so many different things. I would just tell anyone that you don't have to use oracle decks. If it makes you uncomfortable, you can, use music. You can use writing or anything that can help you get the messages that you need to hear, or even, talking to a friend. So it comes in whatever way you're open to.
Right. So you have clients, you do speaking engagements. How are you doing, Janna, around the globe?
Yeah, so I started speaking in 2019, pre-COVID. So I was doing women's events for entrepreneurs. So I did a lot of networking events in Palm Beach County, and I did a few speaking events, doing more like workshops with women that were hands-on, immersive, transformative experiences. I had a blast. I really did. COVID happened. And it was interesting because I actually retreated for a couple of years after that.
I think we all did. We were just sort of, the earth said, go home, go within and rethink your whole life.
Yes. Exactly.
Rethink everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I did. I mean, I used that time to really go within and realize that as much love as I had and still have towards entrepreneurs, being one myself, it wasn't where my heart was pulling me towards that focus group. So I took a few years off and I started writing and I started painting and, really going into my own practice. I got certified in Reiki healing arts and, I started doing oracle card readings for myself, friends, family, clients. And it just took me in a whole different direction in my life and career.
That's perfect. I mean, the twisty turny, and when we kind of, the universe can just sort of bop us on the head and say, okay, are you listening? Are you listening? And just to go within and try something new and shift what needs to be shifted. But the, again, in back of you, that I'm looking at for the people who are just listening, there's nature. She's surrounded by nature and animals and animal wisdom. And that's part of it too. And whether the I call it the 2020s, right? We got bopped in the 2020, and that's about vision, as a matter of fact. What is your vision? What is your vision for yourself and for the world? And so, if we all had to stop and pause for a while and do our collective journeys to see, are we and turn off the noise, right? Remember how quiet it was,
Oh yeah.
and there were no cars, and it was just quiet, and that was that kind of collective sign to pause and listen to nature and listen to the children who weren't in school, they were in your house, and listen to your hearts. So I know the theme and the title of this show is going to be insight, and I think this kind of gets into that inner vision as well. So you're here as a way shower. I think we're both here as way showers to help women. I'll include the guys too, but to really help people have that self sight, that insight into what is it that makes us tick, and what is it that might be a roadblock. So do you help people within their trauma systems to kind of see their way clear? Tell us more about your work and what it is that is your passion.
Yes, thank you. So I've worked a lot around trauma, physical trauma in my career, as I had said before. And I had had a lot of trauma happen in my own life and my own PTSD within childhood and also within my nursing career. So much that was unresolved. And I'm so grateful, really, because all of those heart-wrenching to my knees moments where there were times I didn't even want to be around anymore. It was so heavy that like being empathic and being highly sensitive and having like 40 years or more on this earth where I felt like I was carrying humanity's heaviness on top of my own grief and sadness and depression and finding my own way. Like it got to a point where it was so unbearable that I was really struggling. And I think I realized through all of it that I want to work with other people that are going through a lot of deep, heavy, hard things because I know what it's like. And I'm not afraid of talking about those things. So when it comes to trauma, PTSD, grief, I've dealt with a lot of people that are sick and dying themselves, and also people that they're losing loved ones and they have lost someone that they love. And even the grief, from myself, I hurt myself badly about 12 years ago training for a competition, and my life has never been the same. So there's a lot of grief associated when we lose parts of what we can do and the function that we have in life, and part of our identity can be lost in that. So to answer your question, like all of those things really were the driving force in my life and my own healing. And it's what I realized I really want to do in the world. Part of what I want to do is help those people going through the hardest times of their life be able to go within and to be able to walk through that fire and know that, like you said, they're not alone.
They're not alone.
There's other souls out there that want to help serve humanity. I think, like both of us and so many other people, that is our driving force, is to help be the light for other people, to guide their own way, essentially.
Well, and you touched on something about being empathic or being an empath, or I'll also say a super sensitive, and to recognize where that can be a burden in itself, where we, unbeknownst to us, we don't realize what we are taking on, especially as children. Maybe we've been sick, or there are people that are chronic with something or other because we're carrying the load of our family members. So for me personally, that's been my own awakening is, I can let that go. Yes. And I'm a fixer in recovery because, the super sensitive who tend to want to help and save everybody, or maybe keep somebody alive, or all those things. Step back and do some self medicine, and to not necessarily take on the burdens of the world. And so I find it's an interesting balance of being in service without the overgiving. Yes. How do you navigate all of that as a sensitive yourself?
Right. It's really until recently, the last 5 years, because I never considered myself, like the terms empathic, highly sensitive, intuitive. I always embodied those things from
Right.
early childhood, but I never labeled myself as any of that.
Right.
And it wasn't until I had a lot of my own breakdowns and almost losing my own life from an
Right.
accident and all the trauma and everything that I realized that all the trying to save and the fix and, the enmeshment with self and others, and really having no energetic boundaries or actual boundaries at all in relationships. And it's been a journey. I'm still on that journey. I think I will be for the rest of my human life.
Hmm.
It never ends. So
Right.
I think I've absolutely realized, the fact that some of the heaviness I've even dealt with in my own depression has actually been the heaviness of humanity. It's not just mine. And I would love to share that with anyone listening here, because I think so often we feel, at least I felt like this shame that I was failing, being someone
Right.
that was very much wanting to achieve a lot, wanting to do a lot in life. And I just felt like when I couldn't handle my own life anymore, being someone that was always on high octane, like high functioning, anxiety driven, wanting to accomplish a lot type of a person, and achieve a lot, that it's not it's not like only your stuff that you're carrying. And
Right.
to really recognize that, and to know that it's okay, like you said earlier, to let that go,
Oh,
let that belief system and let that heaviness go, and know that sometimes you're just witnessing it, and witnessing it, like energetically speaking.
right. Well, as you're speaking, there's two tangents that lead back to the same thing, to the core of what you're saying. One is as feeling like that there can be a collective thing. Obviously, when major things happen or a storm happens, and there you can feel it in the air, and some of us can feel it ahead of time. And so it's great to have people that can know, you're not crazy. Yes, there is something bigger than you happening, especially if you feel it ahead of time. The other thing is, so how to navigate that with a team, a good
Hmm.
bunch of folks to help us. The other piece of that are the people in the service fields, and there can be huge burnout because of everything you're just talking about, even massage therapists, or certainly teachers, certainly other coaches and folks in the service for doctors, that there are helpers for the helpers. Like the helpers need the helpers, so
Yeah.
that they're not burning out, taking on all the stuff from their clients or from the administration or from the other areas. It's so again, this navigating within what it is that we individually really could use, and where to say, I need to refuel, and this isn't mine. I really can't take this on, literally, physically, emotionally, energetically.
Yes, it's so true, Heather. It's you have to really it's a lifetime of knowing. You go
Hmm.
through enough things and you realize that what's yours, what's not yours, and
Right.
what to let go of. It's just as important as bringing anything new into our lives. It's what do we need to let go of? What beliefs, what responsibilities and burdens, and where we're placing our time, our focus, and our energy.
Hmm.
For me, I had a few burnouts in my life, big time,
Right.
with my career, traveling all the time, working nonstop, trauma, 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 coming home, to like not a lot of sleep. My health was declining. So I've had a few illnesses that I've been battling, and just a few things that I've gone through because of the severe burnout.
Right.
So, it's really learning how to be aware. First off, I think awareness is really the beginning of healing, because when we know where we stand and we know where we are energetically speaking, we can also know how to navigate, more of what we want in our life and what we want that to look and feel like. So it is important. It is important to anyone listening out there to know, that you're not alone. Like, I think everyone at this point is burnout in some way.
In
They're
some form.
experiencing
Yep.
some form of overwhelm and
Right.
exhaustion. And especially in the world we live in, it's so driven by overstimulation, constantly being distracted by one thing or another. So,
That's so true. And you use the word driven. And I think for the A personalities, or I kind of had to rat my own self out one day, or a number of days really, where I'm thinking, oh, I'm so chill and zen. Oh no, Heather, you're as OCD as the next person. This stuff is still within us, but this notion of being driven and what's your purpose and how are you saving the world, and let's go with the multitasking, especially for women, we were supposed to be multitasking. And then again, the big bop on the head of, oh, nature doesn't multitask. Nature knows one thing and they do it well. So I think for the A personalities, and maybe when you had been working with entrepreneurs, to be an entrepreneurial spirit can be a very interesting avenue to take, because you're driven to do something that's a calling. So how to then balance it to be in a more gentler manner. What would you say to all of that sort of stuff? Goodness. That we're rewriting ourselves really about what it means to be driven versus focused. Maybe that's what it comes down to.
Yes. Right. I want to speak to a few things. First off, the entrepreneurial spirit. I've had it, like many people, probably since they were very young,
sure.
Pizza slices on the side of the corner or lemonade or whatever.
Yeah.
And I meet so many women that they have that entrepreneurial mind and they want to achieve.
Right.
And I would say what I learned in my journey of starting a business is it will take you places, I promise you, that you've never been in your whole life. If you want to be challenged, if you want to grow, if you want to shed some things that are no longer serving you, start a business, because it will do all those things. And I never knew starting a business would, the twists and turns that you mentioned, I never knew it would take me down all these pathways of exploration of my life and like, who am I? So that's one thing I would say. Another, we do live in a world that's so focused on achieving and accomplishing, whether that's like getting A's in school and getting the degree and the job and the guy and like all the things. So I would say to that is giving yourself a break and knowing that it's not how much you do. It's not like that constant to-do list that never gets done. It's, I would say, going within in a heart-centered way, whether that's taking a few deep heart-centered breaths and being present in the present moment, it's like kind of going within. And I would like, what I ask myself sometimes is I just like lay down, close my eyes, breathe, and just say like, who am I? What do I really want? And you asked something about the purpose. Like we all want to know, what's our purpose, right? What's the purpose of life? Why am I here? And for me, I learned, honestly, the biggest purpose is to be present. Like that has been my purpose in the last 5 years, to be in this present moment and to have joy. Joy and fulfillment. Whereas if you would have asked me 5 years ago, of course I have all the things, right? The book and the stuff, but I would have just said, it's getting the degree and getting married. And, my purpose is to leave this big legacy. So I think that's a journey of finding, the balance of what is your purpose and who are you,
Well, I liked what you said earlier about how does it make you feel? And so we can vision board ourselves, which is great, to have a vision. And yet then the other thing that you had said about that becomes its own to-do list that perhaps never gets done, right? Because maybe we're not meant to have everything on that list, because then that we need to have room for the next thing that isn't even on our vision board. This whole podcast show was never on my vision board, but it's the best thing I've ever done after raising my kids. So these are the things kind of going into what you were saying of where if we've been so task oriented, where have we not left space to open up into something even grander that we can even imagine? But it gets into how do we want to feel? Oh, we want to feel, XYZ, name it. And and maybe that's different than what is on our do list.
It is. Yeah. When I was working with entrepreneurs, I had a lot of those sessions where I would ask the women, how do you want to feel? Like, what's the feeling and what's the environment that you want to create within this business? Because it's not so much what's the name of the business, what's the business in general. It's what lifestyle, what feeling, what do you want to experience? And having that clarity
Yeah.
gives a lot of power. Clarity is power because it really helps you understand the whys behind, like, why do you want something? When I first started this and thought I want to be a speaker, that was my goal. I want to write a ton of books that change people's lives, that transform them. And I wanted to speak on stages. And it wasn't even about, I just want to have all this notoriety and I want to be famous. It was more, I had this desperate, I had a fear that I had all these like hopes and dreams when I was a kid, all these desires to help change people's lives. And what happened is, right before I had the accident in 2018, up to that point, I felt like my life, honestly, had no purpose. I felt like all the dreams, all the desires of my heart had not been fulfilled. And I had felt very disenchanted with life and sad. I just felt like, wow, I've just been surviving, like hustling and surviving and not in touch with the life that I really had since a little girl.
Right.
And that drove me for the last, many years to finish these books and finish the deck. But it was more out of fear. It was out of fear because I thought, I don't want to die and not get this out to the world. And I had to realize, which was part of my own healing of letting go, that I'm not late for anything. I'm not late for the party, and nor is anyone else listening here that's thinking, I got to get married before I die. I got to do all these things.
And we haven't made a mistake.
We haven't.
And it's certainly not all our fault. And
no,
this is all so bigger than us.
Yeah. All of it.
It's so bigger.
All the judgment, all the pressure, all the, I want to make a legacy. I want to leave a mark. I want to whatever, fill in the blank. And it's like going back within and like, oh my gosh, I didn't make any mistakes. I didn't make any wrong decisions. Like, I'm exactly where I need to be in this moment, even with you right now.
Right.
And it's all good, really. Not that it's always going to feel good, but to know that, like, you haven't messed up. You haven't. You're not late to the party.
We're not late for the party. Gosh, you just reminded me out in Acton, Mass. I had this thing about missing the bus, but it wasn't just the one school bus. It was this thing about missing time, that I can't be late. So somehow we have these strange things kind of wired in us from other spaces, I think. And so to tap into what you were just talking about, we can rewind or unwind those things and take that insight and clarity to notice, oh, I'm right on time. The white rabbit running around with his clock. Oh, he can sit down and have that cup of tea.
Exactly.
And not worried about it. Okay, let's talk lemurs.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a nonprofit. Tell us about lemurs and how that came to be, because I think it all kind of nests in and ties in with what we're talking about.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I think it was back in 2013. A friend of mine had took me to Miami, and there was a lemur experience down there. For anyone who doesn't know, essentially you have a lemur trainer who sits in a room with a few people, and you have about 5 to 6 lemurs that just jump all over you, and you can feed them. It's just glorious. And at the time, I didn't know what a lemur was, had never seen one in my life. I fell in love that day. I spent about 30 minutes with them, and I went home and just Googled, what is a lemur? Where are they from? And I found out they're endemic to Madagascar on the outskirts of Africa. And they were highly endangered species from a lot of reasons, just, over farming, and a lot of their agriculture is being used for brick farms. And a lot of them are, taken and sold illegally, eaten for their meat. So there's a lot of things that are going on, like deforestation in general. So that one experience opened up a lot of doors for me. And several years later, I had said, one day I'm going to go to Madagascar and I'm going to work with the lemurs somehow. I don't know how. So I took several nursing assignments, and it took me about a year to save up. And I saved up. I found this organization called the Duke Lemur Center in Durham, North Carolina. And it's an organization that houses lemurs. and they're all about conservation and education. It's incredible. So I found out that they had this organization. I reached out to them and I booked a 3-week excursion in Madagascar. So I flew to Africa on my own, and I met about 20 other people from all over the world that were in love with lemurs more than I was, which was pretty astonishing. I thought
They're awfully cute. It's
yeah,
true.
they're awful cute. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing. It was a life-changing experience. The people I met were absolutely wonderful. And it's been great. So I go back as often as I can to the Duke Lemur Center, and I try to give them as much support. And I told them one day, years ago, I said, one day I'm going to have my own business, and one day I'm going to put your organization as one of the organizations that I wanted to filter people to give awareness. And he, the owner of the company just smiled and said, okay. So it was nice. So it's nice to be able to give back in a bigger way now.
Do you foresee another trip to Madagascar?
I don't know. I would love to go to Africa to go to a safari one day. That's a bucket list while I'm still alive that I want to do. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. So, Janna, what else is on your horizon? I know you say you're kind of an innate storyteller.
Yes.
And do you have things that you're percolating, working on for the rest of 23 into 24? Are you kind of in your own self-pause while also helping your clientele? What else is on your wheelhouse?
Yes, thanks for asking. So I'm still currently seeing clients one-on-one for the Reiki, the intuitive card readings, the channeling, and the spiritual coaching. But, right now I'm finishing up a memoir. I'm hoping to be done in the next 2 months. It's taken me a while to write this memoir, so I'm really excited to be finished with this soon. I'm finished with creating my oracle deck, so that's already done. I'm just looking for a printer right now, so I'm hoping that the deck and the memoir will be done this year. And I'm working on an ebook right now, as well as a digital guide for women. So hopefully about 4 projects will be finishing up this year.
Wow.
To be launched at the end of this year, at the beginning of next year. And next year my focus is shifting away from one-on-one work. And in next year, it's gonna be more just speaking on stages, speaking in organizations, doing workshops, transformative workshops, hopefully all over the United States and maybe overseas one day. So it will be transitioning for sure.
Great. And do you have women as your focus or?
Yes.
Okay.
They are. And one day I might open it up to men. It's not that my heart doesn't, go out towards men, because it does, but I do feel more called at this point in my life to really focus on women and female empowerment.
Well, and I can get that. And the word doula is coming up. So we're birthing each other in our own way. And women, it is a separate journey in its own way from the guys. And ultimately, yes, we're all in this together, multi-gendered, and the whole yin and yang of it. Within that, though, in one of my previous guests, Brooke, who is a doula, she's been a death doula, and then she now is a life doula and a women's coach. It comes back to the same thing, which is empowerment, and empowerment of self and body to bring forward life and to understand the ins and outs of the medical part of it. But there is also the spiritual within that. And then the aftermath with the kids and the babies. So it's all, that is very female focused, right? And very goddess focused.
Yes.
And so I appreciate that your focus is on the women right now.
Yes,
because we are definitely we really are all birthing something completely different right now.
We are. And I will say that within the groups that I work with trauma, PTSD, and grief, I'm also seeing a lot of women in the last couple of years that are going through these spiritual transformative awakening experiences. And that's what happened on my journey 5 years ago, and I didn't know what that was. I didn't know anyone that had gone through it. I thought I was losing my mind and having visions and just couldn't get out of bed. And it was the craziest, wildest time
Yeah.
of my life. And it lasted about 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
It was so intense. And I've really just been getting out of it in the last year. So that's another thing that I didn't know I would be working with women on, but
Right.
yet it's here and it's finding me. And I do want to be that lamppost for women that feel like, what's happening? Like, my whole life is shifting, my identity. I don't know who I am. I don't know what matters, and there is a lot of grief that happens because you're letting go of who you are and who
That's
you
right.
thought you were, to
That's
find
right.
more of that authentic, true self. So,
That's it. You've hit it perfectly. That's so true. And, the ancient wisdoms, the ancient texts that talk about dying unto self.
yes.
But that's just it. We're peeling the layers of what we thought we had. Maybe I'll never forget a therapist, brilliant woman, said, that really wasn't a real relationship. Like, what? So you grieve what you thought it was supposed to look like, and everything that you have just said. And plus the awakening part, where you're literally birthing out a whole nother person, which is you, which is just yourself. You're remembering yourself.
Yes.
And that gets into the insight and the clarity of, oh, wow. And now, cue Monty Python, and now for something completely different.
Yes, it's awesome. It's
right.
The twists and turns of life. It's like going with the flow of the life force energy. It's like
right.
whatever you're being pulled. I know we were sharing earlier, I got into art for about 8 months, just a random thing. And I did it for as long as I wanted to. And then it ended and I let it go. That's
and that's it. Yeah. Right. We have these seasons.
Yep.
And something has to pour out, pour forward. Yes. And the creative avenues, the music, you mentioned you love music, poetry, whatever. It's all sometimes people are going to start speaking weird languages or write in funny things. These are the things that are innately part of us. We could get to the starseed part. We'll save that for another show.
Yeah.
And because it's part of us who are really ancient. And if we've been around 1 billion years, like the star particles that we are, this is why it's kind of a big deal to find our tribe, which might look different than our family, our birth families. So that's a whole nother process too. And within all that is that context of fun. So you're finding the lemurs, or I love the turtles, or going to the beach, or painting, or dancing, and having some silliness.
Absolutely.
Right.
Having play. I think
play.
Yeah, I was like so many other women I knew was like so hyper focused on just the task and achieving and work. And I realized I wasn't playing in my life. So it's like to tell other women that it's okay to just play for no other reason than to just play.
Yep.
There's nothing to achieve, nothing to accomplish. Just go have fun, go do something that, makes your heart happy, and enjoy this life. It's here to be enjoyed by you, really, and feel fulfilled by you. So
that's it. And I think that's the perfect cherry on the top. Enjoy this life. This is why we're here. Jimmy Buffett didn't wake up today. I can't say I was the biggest fan, but I was a fan of what he represented. And that he's physically not on the planet is kind of big news. But the music reverberates. And if he was trying to remind us to kick back and have some fun, maybe not escape, we can rephrase that. But the notion of you and I, we got to wake up today. And so go to the beach, go have some fun, go kiss somebody, go do something. Because we can. And we're here to really live as humans here on this earth.
Yes. I love that, Heather. Have fun, enjoy, be playful, be a participant in your life.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful. So Janna, thank you so much. Where can we find you? Do you have a website or
Yes, I do.
Something like that?
Janna Lemur, it's JANNALEMUR.com. You're more than welcome to go there. You could book a 20-minute free consultation call with me, or if you want to book a service, there's many there for you to choose from.
Wonderful. And it's a beautiful website. I high props to that.
Thank you.
High props to that. So
That was
Janna,
a 3-year birthing situation, so it's been an evolution, that's for sure.
well, cheers to evolution.
Yeah.
And cheers to you. And cheers to you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to like, follow, share, and review this podcast. And if you would like to be a part of the conversation, send emails to podcasts@lastingconversations.com. And find us on Facebook at Lasting Conversations. This is Lasting Conversations. We get to the heart of everything.